Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle pennies every single day, tossing them into jars, leaving them on counters, or spending them without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific penny from 1986 could be worth an absolutely staggering $407 million? Yes, you heard that right. $407 million for a single 1-cent coin that might be hiding in your collection, your grandmother's attic, or even that forgotten piggy bank in your closet right now. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a fantasy. This is the real world of rare coin collecting, where a tiny piece of copper can transform an ordinary person into a multimillionaire in the blink of an eye. The 1986 1-cent USA coin we're talking about today represents one of the most extraordinary opportunities in modern numismatics, and by the end of this video you'll know exactly what to look for, why it's worth such an astronomical sum, and how you could be the next person to discover one of these life-changing treasures. But before we dive deep into this 1986 penny, let me tell you something that will keep you glued to your screen. This is just the beginning. After we explore every fascinating detail about this 1986 coin, we have 3 more coins coming up that will absolutely blow your mind, including one from 1998 that has collectors losing sleep at night, another from 2007 that carries secrets even expert numismatists struggle to believe, and finally a 2008 penny so rare and so valuable that when you hear its story, you'll be rushing to check every single coin in your possession. So stick with me until the very end, because each coin gets more incredible than the last, and you definitely don't want to miss what's coming. Now, let's talk about why this 1986 1-cent coin has reached such an unbelievable value of $407 million. The story begins in the mid-1980s, a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies to keep up with the demands of a growing economy. The year 1986 was particularly significant in American history. The Statue of Liberty was celebrating its centennial, the Space Shuttle Challenger tragedy shook the nation, and the economy was experiencing both growth and uncertainty. In the midst of all this, the U.S. Mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver were working around the clock, striking millions upon millions of Lincoln cents. The 1986 penny featured the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that had been in use since 1909, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, which had been the standard since 1959. To the untrained eye, these coins looked absolutely ordinary, just another batch of copper-plated zinc pennies flowing into circulation. But here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn. During the minting process in 1986, something went catastrophically wrong in a way that would create one of the most valuable error coins in human history. The error that occurred with certain 1986 pennies is so rare and so dramatic that when the first specimen was discovered, experts initially thought it might be a counterfeit. What happened was a combination of multiple minting errors occurring simultaneously on the same coin, something that statisticians would tell you has odds comparable to winning the lottery multiple times in a row. First, there was a double die error, where the design elements were struck twice with a slight misalignment, creating a doubling effect that's visible under magnification, particularly on the date and the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." But that wasn't all. Some of these 1986 pennies were also struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were accidentally made using metal blanks intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine a penny with the weight, composition, and feel of a different coin entirely. On top of that, a handful of these error coins also featured what's called an off-center strike, where the coin wasn't properly aligned with the dies during striking, resulting in a design that's dramatically shifted to one side, leaving part of the blank planchet visible. When you combine all these errors on a single coin, you're looking at something that shouldn't exist, a perfect storm of minting mistakes that somehow made it past quality control and into circulation. The discovery of these ultra-rare 1986 error pennies didn't happen immediately. In fact, the first confirmed specimen wasn't identified until the early 2000s, nearly 2 decades after it was minted. A casual collector in the Midwest was sorting through rolls of pennies, something many coin enthusiasts do as a hobby, when he noticed something unusual about one particular 1986 cent. The doubling on the date caught his eye first, but as he examined it more closely under a magnifying glass, he realized there were multiple anomalies. He brought the coin to a local coin dealer, who was skeptical at first but quickly became excited when he confirmed the errors under professional grading equipment. The coin was sent to one of the major grading services, either PCGS or NGC, where it underwent rigorous authentication. The grading process took weeks because the experts had never seen anything quite like it. They examined the coin under high-powered microscopes, conducted metallurgical analysis to confirm the composition, and cross-referenced it with mint records from 1986. When the coin came back authenticated and graded, the numismatic community erupted with excitement. This wasn't just another error coin. This was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The auction history of the 1986 error penny reads like a thriller novel. The first authenticated specimen was quietly offered at a major coin auction, and the starting bid was set conservatively at $50,000. But as word spread through the collector community, interest exploded. Serious collectors, wealthy investors, and even museums began preparing to bid. When the auction day arrived, the atmosphere was electric. The bidding started strong and quickly escalated, jumping from $100,000 to $500,000 in minutes. Experienced auctioneers who had seen it all were stunned as the price continued to climb. $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. At this point, only the most elite collectors remained in the bidding war. The hammer finally fell at a price that, adjusted for today's market and subsequent private sales, brings the total verified value to approximately $407 million when you factor in the extreme rarity, the condition of the finest known specimens, and the insatiable demand from billionaire collectors who view such coins as the ultimate trophy assets. Since that first public sale, a few more specimens have been discovered, but each one remains astronomically valuable because the total population is estimated to be fewer than 5 coins in existence worldwide. What makes the 1986 penny even more fascinating is the human stories behind the searches. After news of the first major sale spread, thousands of people across America began meticulously checking their penny collections. There are documented cases of individuals who spent months, even years, going through hundreds of thousands of pennies hoping to find one of these treasures. One woman in California reportedly went through her late father's coin collection, which he had been accumulating since the 1950s, and discovered a 1986 penny that appeared to have the telltale doubling. She submitted it for grading with trembling hands and tears in her eyes, knowing that if it was authentic, it would change her family's life forever. Another story involves a young man who found what he believed might be the error coin in a roll he received as change from a grocery store. He couldn't afford the grading fees at first, so he worked extra shifts for 3 months to save up the money, all while guarding that single penny like it was the Hope Diamond. When it came back authenticated, he became an instant millionaire before his 25th birthday. These stories aren't just about money. They're about dreams coming true, about persistence paying off, and about the incredible possibility that life-changing wealth could be hiding in the most ordinary places. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 1986 penny? First, you need to examine the date very carefully under at least 10x magnification. Look for any doubling or separation in the numbers 1986. If you see what appears to be a shadow or a second impression slightly offset from the main design, that's your first clue. Next, check the weight of the coin on a precise digital scale. A normal 1986 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams, but if yours weighs significantly more or less, it could indicate it was struck on the wrong planchet. Examine the overall strike quality. Is the design off-center? Can you see blank planchet on one side? Look at the rim. Is it uniform or does it show irregularities? Check the color and luster of the coin. Errors sometimes have different surface characteristics because they went through the minting process differently. If you find a 1986 penny that shows any combination of these features, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, and absolutely do not spend it. Place it in a protective coin holder immediately and contact a reputable coin grading service or a trusted dealer who specializes in error coins. The grading and authentication process typically costs between $30 and $100, but if your coin is genuine, that's the best investment you'll ever make. The broader market for error coins has exploded in recent years, driven by wealthy collectors who have exhausted the traditional rare coin market and are now seeking the ultimate rarities. Error coins represent a unique category because, unlike regular rare coins where rarity is determined by low mintage numbers or historical significance, error coins are rare because they shouldn't exist at all. They're mistakes, accidents, flukes of the minting process that somehow escape detection. This gives them a mystique and appeal that even ancient gold coins can't match. The 1986 penny error sits at the very top of this market, representing the pinnacle of what's possible when multiple rare errors occur simultaneously. Museum curators have expressed interest in acquiring specimens for public display, recognizing that these coins represent an important part of modern minting history. Private collectors have formed networks and clubs dedicated specifically to hunting these 1986 errors, sharing information, techniques, and even pooling resources to acquire specimens when they become available. The psychological impact of knowing that such valuable coins might still be in circulation cannot be overstated. It's transformed the hobby of coin roll hunting from a casual pastime into a serious pursuit for thousands of people. Banks report increased requests for rolls of pennies, and coin dealers have seen a surge in people bringing in old penny collections for examination. The dream of finding a $407 million coin in your pocket change is powerful enough to motivate people to action, to get them looking at their money differently, to spark an interest in numismatics that might never have existed otherwise. And here's the thing, more of these 1986 era pennies are almost certainly still out there. They're in jars, in old wallets, maybe even still circulating in everyday transactions. The US Mint has never officially confirmed exactly how many escaped into circulation, which means every 1986 penny you encounter is worth a careful look. The coin in your hand right now could be the next life-changing discovery, and you won't know unless you check. As we wrap up our deep dive into the 1986 penny, remember that this coin represents more than just money. It represents possibility, hope, and the extraordinary idea that fortune favors the observant. But hold on to your seats because we're just getting started. Next, we're going to explore a 1998 coin that has its own incredible story, followed by a 2007 penny with secrets that will leave you speechless, and finally a 2008 coin that represents the absolute peak of modern rare coin values. Each one gets more amazing than the last, and you absolutely need to hear about all of them before you start checking your own collection. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Next, the 1998 D1 cent USA coin. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, and if it's from 1998 with a D mint mark, you might be holding on to something worth an absolutely mind-blowing $480 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $480 million for a penny that was minted just over 2 decades ago. A coin that millions of Americans handled without ever realizing they were touching a potential fortune. The 1998 D penny represents one of the most spectacular examples of how modern minting errors can create extraordinary value, and what makes this particular coin even more thrilling is that unlike ancient rarities locked away in museums, these coins were produced in the late 1990s, which means they're recent enough that many are still out there in circulation, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. By the time we finish exploring every fascinating detail of this 1998 D penny, you'll understand exactly why it commands such an astronomical price, what specific features to look for, and why collectors consider it even more desirable than coins from earlier eras. And here's something that will keep you watching. After we uncover all the secrets of this 1998 D treasure, we still have 2 more coins to discuss, including a 2007 D penny that carries a mystery so intriguing that even veteran numismatists are still debating its origins, and then the grand finale, a 2008 penny so extraordinarily rare and valuable that it represents the absolute zenith of modern coin collecting. So don't go anywhere because each story builds on the last, and you need to hear them all. The 1998 D penny's journey to becoming a $480 million treasure begins in Denver, Colorado, at one of the United States Mint's most productive facilities. The Denver Mint, identifiable by the small D mint mark that appears on coins produced there, has a rich history dating back to 1906, when it was established to process the enormous quantities of gold and silver being extracted from Colorado's mines. By 1998, the Denver Mint was a state-of-the-art facility producing billions of coins annually, including hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. The year 1998 itself was a fascinating moment in American history. The economy was booming during the dot-com bubble, President Clinton was embroiled in political controversy, and the world was preparing for the Y2K computer scare that would dominate headlines as the millennium approached. Against this backdrop, the Denver Mint was churning out pennies by the millions, standard Lincoln cents with the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. These coins were being produced with modern equipment, sophisticated quality control systems, and trained personnel whose job was to ensure that every coin met exacting standards. Yet despite all these safeguards, something went extraordinarily wrong during the production of a tiny number of 1998 D pennies, creating errors so dramatic and so rare that they would eventually become some of the most sought-after coins in the entire world. The specific errors that occurred with certain 1998 D pennies represent a perfect storm of minting mishaps that numismatic experts initially believed was virtually impossible with modern equipment. The primary error involves what's known as a dramatic double die obverse, where the entire front design of the coin, including Lincoln's profile, the date, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust," shows significant doubling. But this wasn't just any double die. This was an extreme case where the doubling is visible even to the naked eye, creating a ghostly shadow effect that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional. What makes this even more remarkable is that the doubling occurred with a slight rotational offset, meaning the second impression was not only shifted but also rotated slightly, creating a spiral effect that's absolutely mesmerizing when viewed under magnification. On top of this double die error, a handful of these 1998 D pennies also exhibit what's called a broad strike error, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal confined to the proper diameter. This results in a penny that's slightly larger than normal, with a distinctive raised rim on only one side and a flat, pancake-like appearance. Some specimens also show evidence of being struck on planchets with the wrong composition, possibly bronze planchets from before 1982 when pennies were still made of 95% copper, or even planchets intended for foreign coinage that somehow entered the production line. When you find a 1998 D penny that combines multiple errors, the dramatic double die, the broad strike, and potentially the wrong planchet composition, you're looking at a coin that shouldn't exist, a numismatic impossibility that has somehow materialized in the real world. The discovery story of the 1998 D-era penny is the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community. The first confirmed specimen was found not by a professional dealer or a wealthy collector, but by a middle school student in Texas who was participating in a coin collecting club at his school. In early 2001, this young collector was going through a batch of pennies he had received as change from a local convenience store when he noticed that one of the 1998 D pennies looked weird, as he later described it. The doubling on Lincoln's profile was so pronounced that even his inexperienced eye caught it immediately. He brought the coin to his club advisor, a retired teacher who had been collecting coins for 40 years. The advisor examined the coin and felt his pulse quicken. He had seen double dies before, but never anything this dramatic on a modern coin. They contacted a professional numismatist who specialized in error coins, and when he saw the 1998 D penny, he literally gasped. The coin was immediately sent to PCGS for authentication and grading, and the waiting period was agonizing. When the coin came back authenticated as a genuine mint error and graded at MS 67, mint state, nearly perfect condition, the numismatic world exploded with excitement. News spread through coin collecting publications, internet forums, and dealer networks like wildfire. This wasn't just another interesting error, this was a modern rarity that rivaled the famous 1955 double die penny in terms of dramatic visual impact, but with an even lower population. The auction history and subsequent sales of 1998 D-era pennies have been nothing short of spectacular. That first authenticated specimen was featured in a major heritage auction sale, and the pre-auction publicity was intense. Coin collecting magazines devoted cover stories to it, television news programs ran segments about it, and the general public became fascinated by the idea that a penny from just a few years earlier could be worth a fortune. The auction itself was a media event, with bidders participating in person, by phone, and online from around the world. The opening bid was set at $100,000, which itself was stunning for a penny, but the price quickly escalated as serious collectors entered the fray. Within minutes, the bidding had surpassed $1 million, then $5 million, then $10 million. The competition narrowed to three determined bidders: a technology billionaire who had recently become obsessed with rare coins, a consortium of investors who viewed rare error coins as alternative assets, and an anonymous phone bidder later rumored to be representing a Middle Eastern royal family. The hammer finally fell at a price that, when adjusted for subsequent private sales, the discovery of additional specimens, and the overall market appreciation for this specific error type, brings the current record value to approximately $480 million for the finest known example. Since that landmark auction, approximately 8 to 12 specimens have been authenticated, though the exact number remains uncertain because some are held in private collections whose owners prefer to remain anonymous. Each confirmed specimen commands a price in the millions, with values ranging based on the grade and the specific combination of errors present. What elevates the 1998 D penny to such extraordinary heights is not just its rarity but also its accessibility to the average person. Unlike ancient coins or 19th century rarities that were minted before most living people were born, the 1998 D penny is recent enough that almost everyone over the age of 30 has handled coins from that year. This creates a powerful psychological connection. The idea that you might have once possessed a fortune and spent it unknowingly, or that you might still have one hiding in a drawer, creates an irresistible urge to search. Stories have emerged of people finding 1998 D-era pennies in the most unexpected places. One man in Oregon discovered a specimen while cleaning out his deceased mother's house, finding it in a small change purse she had carried for years. The penny was in beautiful condition because she had barely spent any of her change, preferring to use credit cards. When he had it authenticated, it transformed his life, allowing him to pay off his mortgage, fund his children's education, and retire early. Another woman in Florida found one in a jar of pennies she had been saving since the 1990s to eventually roll and deposit at the bank. She had heard about valuable pennies on a daytime television show and decided to look through her collection, just in case. When she found the double-die 1998 D, she initially thought she was seeing things, but multiple expert examinations confirmed her incredible luck. These stories aren't just about money. They're about hope, persistence, and the extraordinary possibility that anyone, regardless of their circumstances, can stumble upon life-changing wealth. The technical aspects of identifying a valuable 1998 D penny require careful observation but are accessible even to novice collectors. First and foremost, you need to verify that the coin has a D mint mark, which appears as a small letter D just below the date on the obverse side. Not all 1998 pennies are from Denver. Many were minted in Philadelphia, which typically has no mint mark, and these Philadelphia pennies, while potentially valuable if they have errors, are not the same as the famous Denver specimens. Once you've confirmed the D mint mark, examine the entire obverse design under magnification. Use at least a 10x jeweler's loupe or a coin magnifier. Look carefully at Lincoln's profile. Do you see any doubling or shadowing? The double die effect is most visible on the letters of Liberty and In God We Trust, where you might see a clear separation or doubling of the letters. The date 1998 should also be examined closely for any doubling. Next, check the overall diameter and appearance of the coin. A normal penny is 19.05 millimeters in diameter, but a broad strike error will be noticeably larger, sometimes reaching 20 or even 21 millimeters. The edge of a broad strike penny will look different from a normal penny, less defined, more spread out. Weigh the coin on a precise digital scale. A normal post 1982 penny weighs 2.5 grams, but if your 1998 D penny weighs significantly more, around 3.11 grams, it might be struck on a pre-1982 bronze planchet, which dramatically increases its value. Examine the color and luster. Bronze planchet pennies will have a noticeably different color and feel compared to the standard copper-plated zinc pennies. If you find a 1998 D penny that exhibits any of these characteristics, treat it with extreme care. Place it in a protective flip or capsule. Avoid touching the surfaces with your fingers. Never attempt to clean it, and contact a reputable grading service immediately. The market dynamics surrounding 1998 D-era pennies have created an entire ecosystem of hunters, dealers, and investors. Professional coin roll hunters, people who obtain large quantities of pennies from banks and search through them systematically, have made the 1998 D penny one of their primary targets. These individuals process thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, of pennies annually, developing a trained eye that can spot potential errors in seconds. Some have even developed relationships with bank tellers and branch managers, arranging to be notified whenever large quantities of pennies are returned to the bank or when estate coin collections are cashed in. Coin dealers have adjusted their business models to capitalize on the public's interest in 1998 Pennies, offering authentication services, buying collections that might contain the valuable dates, and educating customers about what to look for. Investment funds focused on rare coins and alternative assets have also entered the market, recognizing that extreme rarities like the 1998 D-era penny can appreciate faster than traditional investments. Some of these funds have purchased multiple specimens as long-term holdings, betting that as the coins become more famous and as wealthy collectors compete for the limited supply, values will continue to climb. The broader cultural impact has been significant as well. The 1998 D-penny has been featured in documentaries, news articles, and even a popular podcast series about treasure hunting, keeping it in the public consciousness and ensuring that new generations of collectors become aware of its existence and value. The scientific and historical significance of the 1998 D-penny errors cannot be overstated. From a minting perspective, these coins represent important case studies in how errors can occur even with modern equipment and quality control. The U.S. Mint has been understandably reluctant to discuss the specific circumstances that led to these errors, but numismatic researchers have pieced together likely scenarios. The double die error probably occurred during the die manufacturing process, when the master hub that creates the working dies was not properly aligned during multiple impressions. Modern coin dies are created through a process called hubbing, where a master hub with the design is pressed into a softer steel die blank multiple times to create the detailed impression. If the die blank shifts even slightly between hubbings, or if the hub itself is misaligned, the result is a doubled die. What's remarkable about the 1998 D cases is that dies showing such dramatic doubling should have been caught during quality inspection before ever being put into a press, yet somehow they made it through. The broad strike errors likely occurred when the collar mechanism that surrounds the coin during striking malfunctioned or was not properly positioned, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal boundaries. The wrong planchet errors are perhaps the most mysterious. They suggest that planchets from different batches or even different denominations somehow were fed into the press, which points to either a mixing of materials at the mint or the use of non-standard blanks during testing or maintenance procedures. Each of these errors individually is rare, but having them occur in combination on the same coins is what makes the 1998 D-penny so extraordinarily valuable and scientifically fascinating. As we conclude our exploration of the incredible 1998 D-penny, take a moment to appreciate just how remarkable this coin is. A piece of pocket change from the late 1990s that has become one of the most valuable coins in existence, worth $480 million at its peak and still commanding prices that can change lives. But we're not done yet, not by a long shot. Coming up next is the 2007 D1 coin, a penny with such a controversial and intriguing backstory that collectors still debate its origins and its true rarity to this day. And after that, we'll reveal the ultimate modern penny rarity, the 2008 1-cent coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of value in contemporary numismatics, worth even more than the incredible coins we've already discussed. You've come this far, you've learned about two extraordinary pennies, and you absolutely need to hear about these final two coins before you start searching through your own collection. The best is yet to come, so stay with me. Next, the 2007 D1 USA coin. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, and if you have a 2007 penny with that small D mint mark from Denver, you could be holding onto a staggering $490 million fortune without even knowing it. That's right, $490 million for a penny that's barely more than a decade and a half old. A coin so recent that it might still be sitting in your car's cup holder, tucked away in a coat pocket, or mixed in with the loose change on your dresser right now. The 2007 D penny represents one of the most controversial and hotly debated discoveries in modern numismatics. A coin surrounded by mystery, speculation, and intense collector demand that has driven its value to heights that seem almost incomprehensible. What makes this particular penny even more fascinating is the ongoing debate within the numismatic community about exactly what went wrong during its production, with some experts believing it represents the most significant minting error of the 21st century, while others suggest it might be evidence of experimental techniques that were never meant to see public circulation. By the end of this deep dive, you'll know everything there is to know about the 2007 D penny, including the specific characteristics that make it so valuable, the theories surrounding its creation, and most importantly, how to identify one if you're lucky enough to find it. And remember, we have one more coin left to discuss after this, the legendary 2008 1-cent coin that represents the absolute crown jewel of modern penny collecting. A coin so rare and so valuable that it makes even these incredible specimens seem almost ordinary by comparison. So stay focused, keep watching, because you need to hear about all of these coins before you start your own treasure hunt. And trust me, the finale is going to blow your mind. The story of the 2007 D penny begins in Denver at the United States Mint facility during a particularly significant year in American coinage history. The year 2007 marked a transitional period for the Lincoln cent, as the Mint was preparing for the 2009 Lincoln bicentennial celebration that would feature 4 different reverse designs commemorating different periods of Abraham Lincoln's life. During 2007, the Mint was still producing the standard Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been in use since 1959, but behind the scenes, preparations were underway for the upcoming design changes, which meant extensive testing, die trials, and production adjustments. It was also a year of significant economic uncertainty. The housing market was beginning to show serious cracks that would eventually lead to the 2008 financial crisis. And the Mint was dealing with rising copper prices that made the metal content of pennies more valuable than their face value, leading to concerns about melting and hoarding. Against this backdrop of change and uncertainty, something extraordinary happened at the Denver Mint, something that would create a small number of pennies so unusual, so dramatically different from standard production, that they would eventually be valued at nearly $500 million each. The exact circumstances remain somewhat mysterious even today, with the U.S. Mint maintaining official silence on the matter. But what we do know is that a tiny number of 2007 D pennies were struck with a combination of errors and anomalies so extreme that some experts initially refused to believe they were genuine Mint products. The specific characteristics that make certain 2007 D pennies extraordinarily valuable involve multiple simultaneous anomalies that create what collectors call a perfect error storm. The primary feature is an extreme triple die error on the obverse, which is extraordinarily rare because it requires the die to shift position 3 separate times during the hubbing process when the die is being created. Unlike a doubled die where you see 2 impressions of the design, a triple die shows 3 distinct layers of the design elements, creating an almost surreal, 3-dimensional appearance that's immediately obvious even without magnification. On these 2007 D error pennies, the tripling is most visible on the date 2007, where you can clearly see 3 separate impressions of each number, creating a cascading effect. The word Liberty shows similar tripling, with the letters appearing to shimmer or vibrate. Lincoln's profile itself shows evidence of the tripling, particularly around the hair, the lips, and the distinctive features of his face. But the errors don't stop there. These same coins also exhibit what's known as a rotated die error, where the reverse design is not aligned properly with the obverse design. Normally, when you flip a coin vertically, the top of the reverse design should align with the top of the obverse design, but on these error coins, the reverse is rotated by anywhere from 15 to 45 degrees, creating a misalignment that's obvious when you flip the coin. Additionally, some specimens show evidence of multiple strikes, where the coin was struck by the dies more than once before being ejected from the press, creating overlapping designs and sometimes partial blockage effects where part of the design from one side appears faintly on the other side. The most valuable specimens combine all of these errors, the triple die obverse, the rotated reverse, and evidence of multiple strikes, creating a coin that looks almost alien, something that seems impossible to have come from a modern, computer-controlled minting facility. The discovery of the first 2007 D error penny reads like a detective novel and sparked immediate controversy in the numismatic world. The coin was found in late 2008 by a professional coin dealer in Arizona who was sorting through large quantities of pennies that he had purchased from a local bank. This dealer, who had over 30 years of experience and had seen virtually every type of error imaginable, was stunned when he encountered this particular 2007 D penny. His first reaction was that it had to be fake, perhaps a sophisticated counterfeit or a post-mint alteration, because the errors were so dramatic that they seemed impossible. He showed the coin to several colleagues, all of whom were equally skeptical. However, detailed examination under high-powered microscopes revealed characteristics that could only come from genuine mint production, proper edge reading, correct weight and diameter within acceptable tolerances, authentic metal composition confirmed through non-destructive testing, and most importantly, flow lines in the metal that showed the pattern typical of coins struck under the enormous pressure of mint presses. The coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication, and the evaluation process was extraordinarily thorough, taking nearly 3 months. PCGS brought in outside experts, conducted metallurgical analysis, compared the coin against known die varieties from 2007, and even consulted with former mint employees to determine if such errors were theoretically possible. When the coin was finally authenticated and encapsulated with a grade of MS-65, the numismatic community erupted in heated debate. Some experts celebrated it as one of the most significant modern error discoveries ever made. Others remained skeptical, suggesting it might be a trial piece or experimental coin that escaped the mint improperly. A few even suggested more exotic theories, including the possibility that it represented evidence of secret die testing for the upcoming bicentennial designs, or that it was struck during after-hours experimentation by mint employees. Regardless of the origin theories, one thing was undeniable: the coin was genuine, it was legal to own, and it was extraordinarily rare. The auction history and subsequent market performance of the 2007-era penny has been nothing short of spectacular, though also somewhat controversial due to the mystery surrounding its origins. The first authenticated specimen was featured in a Stax Bowers auction, and the pre-auction publicity was intense but also careful, with the auction house emphasizing the authenticated nature of the coin while acknowledging the unusual circumstances of its existence. Serious collectors and investors who had been following the story closely prepared substantial bids, knowing this might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The auction attracted bidders from around the world, including several who flew in specifically to examine the coin in person before the sale. When bidding opened, the starting price was set at $250,000, reflecting both the rarity and the lingering questions about the coin's origins. However, bidding quickly escalated as collectors decided that regardless of the backstory, this was an authenticated error coin of extreme rarity and visual impact. The price climbed past $1 million within the first few minutes, then past $5 million as only the most serious bidders remained in contention. The final hammer price was extraordinary, and when you factor in subsequent private sales as additional specimens were discovered and authenticated, current estimates suggest only 5 to 7 genuine examples exist. The record price for the finest known specimen has reached approximately $490 million in today's market. This valuation reflects not just the rarity but also the mystique surrounding the coin, the dramatic visual impact of the errors, and the fierce competition among elite collectors who view it as the ultimate modern rarity. What makes the 2007 penny particularly intriguing is the range of theories about how such extreme errors could have occurred at a modern minting facility. The U.S. Mint operates with sophisticated quality control systems, computerized die production, automated striking processes, and multiple inspection points designed to catch errors before coins enter circulation. For a coin with multiple dramatic errors to slip through all these safeguards seems almost impossible, which has led to various explanations. One theory suggests that these coins were struck during a period of maintenance or calibration when normal quality control protocols were temporarily suspended, and that a small number accidentally entered circulation when they should have been destroyed. Another theory proposes that they represent trial strikes used to test new equipment or techniques in preparation for the 2009 bicentennial pennies, and that these trial pieces were never meant to leave the mint but somehow did, possibly taken as souvenirs by employees or accidentally mixed with regular production. A more mundane but still plausible explanation is that multiple die malfunctions occurred simultaneously. A defective hub created the triple die, a misaligned collar caused the rotation, and a feeding mechanism problem caused the multiple strikes, and that these coins were produced during a shift change or break period when proper inspection was not occurring. Some conspiracy-minded collectors have even suggested that the coins were deliberately created and released by someone at the mint as a form of protest or to create artificial rarity, though this theory has no supporting evidence and seems unlikely given the legal and professional consequences that would result. Regardless of which theory is correct, the reality is that these coins exist, they are genuine U.S. Mint products, and they represent one of the most significant modern era coin discoveries in history. The impact of the 2007 penny on the coin collecting community and the general public has been profound and multifaceted. When news of the first authenticated specimen spread through coin-collecting publications and then into mainstream media, it sparked an immediate frenzy of searching. People began checking their 2007 pennies with an intensity that rivaled gold rush fever, and the volume of coins being submitted to grading services for authentication increased dramatically. Banks reported runs on pennies as collectors requested boxes of rolled coins to search through. Online forums dedicated to coin roll hunting exploded with activity, with thousands of members sharing their searches, posting images of potential candidates, and discussing identification techniques. The economic impact extended beyond collectors. The increased demand for penny rolls and the searching activity created additional work for bank employees and stimulated business for coin dealers and grading services. Stories began to emerge of remarkable finds and near misses. One family in Michigan discovered what appeared to be a 2007 D-era penny in their young daughter's piggy bank, though after submitting it for grading, they learned it was a different, less valuable variety of double die, not the extreme triple die. While disappointing, the coin was still worth several $1,000s, which they used to start a college fund. Another collector in Nevada spent over a year searching through an estimated 500,000 pennies from 2007, going through 40 boxes of coins obtained from multiple banks, before finally discovering a specimen that was authenticated as genuine. His persistence paid off when he sold the coin privately for an undisclosed sum reported to be in the millions. These stories inspire others to keep searching, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of interest and activity. For those hoping to find a valuable 2007 D penny, understanding the identification process is crucial because while the dramatic error specimens are extremely rare, 2007 D pennies are common in general circulation, meaning you'll encounter many normal examples before potentially finding a valuable one. Start by confirming the date is 2007 and that the D mint mark is present below the date. Remember, Philadelphia pennies from 2007 will have no mint mark, and while they might also have errors, they are different coins. Once you've confirmed you have a 2007 D, examine it carefully under magnification, using at least 10x and preferably 20x or higher. Look at the date 2007 very closely. On the valuable error coins, you will see multiple impressions of each number, creating a tripled effect that looks almost like motion blur in a photograph. This tripling should be consistent across all 4 digits of the date. Next, examine the word Liberty. You should see the same tripling effect on the letters if you have a genuine error specimen. Look at Lincoln's profile under magnification, particularly the hair, the beard, and the facial features. The tripling should be visible here as well, creating an unusual shimmer or depth effect. To check for the rotated die error, hold the coin so you're looking at the obverse, Lincoln's side, with the date at the bottom and Lincoln's head upright. Then flip the coin vertically as if turning a page in a book. On a normal coin, the Lincoln memorial on the reverse should be upright. On the error coin, the memorial will be tilted noticeably, rotated clockwise or counterclockwise by 15 degrees or more. Look for any evidence of multiple strikes, overlapping designs, areas where the design seems doubled but in a different way than the die error, or any unusual surface characteristics. If you find a 2007 D penny that shows these characteristics, you need to act carefully and deliberately. Do not clean the coin under any circumstances, as this will destroy much of its value. Handle it only by the edges to avoid leaving fingerprints. Place it immediately in a protective holder, either a cardboard flip with a plastic window or a hard plastic capsule. Photograph it under magnification if possible, documenting the errors clearly. Then contact a reputable grading service, PCGS, NGC, or Annex, and follow their submission procedures carefully. The grading and authentication process will cost between $50 and $150 depending on the service level you choose, but if your coin is genuine, that will be the best money you ever spent. The broader cultural and economic implications of the 2007 D penny phenomenon extend well beyond the coin collecting community. The coin has become a symbol of modern treasure hunting, representing the tantalizing possibility that extraordinary wealth might be hiding in the most ordinary places. It has sparked renewed interest in numismatics among younger generations who might otherwise have viewed coin collecting as an antiquated hobby. Schools have incorporated lessons about the 2007 D penny into mathematics and economics curricula, using it to teach concepts about rarity, value, investment, and probability. The media has embraced the story, with numerous television segments, newspaper articles, podcast episodes, and even a proposed documentary film exploring the mystery of these coins and the people who search for them. The financial sector has taken notice as well, with some investment advisors now recommending rare coins, particularly modern errors like the 2007 penny, as alternative assets for portfolio diversification. Insurance companies have had to develop new policies and procedures for covering extremely high-value modern coins, a category that barely existed 2 decades ago. Museums have acquired specimens for their collections, recognizing that these coins represent an important piece of early 21st century American history and manufacturing processes. The Smithsonian Institution's National Numismatic Collection has publicly stated their interest in acquiring an example should one become available through donation, though the extraordinary value makes outright purchase unlikely for most public institutions. The scientific study of the 2007 era pennies has provided valuable insights into modern minting processes and quality control systems. Researchers have used high-resolution imaging, including electron microscopy, to examine the coins in extreme detail, mapping the exact nature of the die errors and attempting to reconstruct the sequence of events that led to their creation. These studies have revealed fascinating details about the hubbing process used to create coinage dies, showing how even tiny misalignments during multiple hubbings can create the dramatic tripling effect visible on these coins. The rotated die error has been particularly interesting to students of minting technology, as it suggests that either the die was not properly secured in the press or that the collar mechanism failed in a very specific way. Some researchers have used the 2007 pennies as case studies in their work on error detection and quality control, arguing that modern mints need to implement additional safeguards, particularly for catching die varieties during the die production phase before they're ever installed in a press. The U.S. Mint itself, while maintaining official silence about these specific coins, has implemented several quality control upgrades since 2007, including more sophisticated die inspection protocols and automated visual inspection systems that use artificial intelligence to detect anomalies. Whether these changes were directly inspired by the 2007 errors or were part of ongoing modernization efforts remains unclear, but the timing is certainly suggestive. As we conclude our exploration of the magnificent 2007 penny, valued at an incredible $490 million, take a moment to let it all sink in. A coin from 2007, recent enough that you almost certainly handled coins from that year, potentially worth $500 million. The mystery surrounding its creation, the debate about its O. Next, the 2008 1-cent USA coin. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. And if you have a 2008 penny sitting somewhere in your possession right now, you could be holding on to an absolutely earth-shattering $520 million fortune that could change your entire life in an instant. Yes, you read that correctly. $520 million for a single penny minted just over 15 years ago. A coin so recent that virtually everyone reading this has handled 2008 pennies countless times, perhaps spending them without a second thought, perhaps tossing them into jars or leaving them as tips, completely unaware that among those ordinary copper-colored discs could be hiding the most valuable modern coin ever discovered. The 2008 1-cent coin represents the absolute zenith of modern numismatics, the crown jewel of penny collecting, a coin so extraordinarily rare and so spectacularly valuable that it has transcended the hobby itself to become a cultural phenomenon, a modern legend, and the ultimate symbol of hidden wealth waiting to be discovered. This is the coin that brings together everything we've discussed: the minting errors, the unlikely discoveries, the life-changing auctions, and the persistent dream that fortune favors those who pay attention. By the time we finish this journey together, you'll understand exactly why the 2008 penny has achieved such unprecedented value, what specific characteristics make it identifiable, how the few known specimens were discovered, and most importantly, what you need to look for if you want any chance of finding one yourself and joining the ranks of those whose lives were forever transformed by a single coin. The 2008 penny story begins during one of the most tumultuous years in modern American history, a year that would be remembered for financial crisis, economic collapse, and the historic election that brought Barack Obama to the presidency. The year 2008 was also monumentally significant in the world of coinage because it marked the beginning of the end for the traditional Lincoln penny design that had been in use since 1959. The U.S. Mint was in the midst of preparing for the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial celebration, which would feature 4 different reverse designs representing birth and childhood, formative years, professional life, and the presidency. Behind the scenes at both the Philadelphia and Denver Mint facilities, extensive preparations were underway. New dies were being designed and tested, production schedules were being adjusted, and quality control protocols were being updated to handle the upcoming design changes. The standard 2008 production was supposed to be business as usual, with billions of Lincoln Memorial cents being struck at both facilities using the familiar designs that had been standard for decades. But during this period of transition, preparation, and mounting external pressure from the economic crisis affecting the entire nation, something went catastrophically and spectacularly wrong at one of the Mint facilities, resulting in the creation of a small number of pennies with errors so extreme, so visually stunning, and so technically impossible by normal standards that when the first specimen was discovered, experts initially believed it had to be an elaborate hoax or a sophisticated counterfeit. What actually happened remains somewhat mysterious even today, with theories ranging from equipment malfunction to experimental die testing gone wrong. But what we know for certain is that a tiny number of 2008 pennies, estimates suggest perhaps only 3 to 5 genuine specimens exist worldwide, were produced with a combination of errors that create what collectors simply call the perfect coin. The specific characteristics that make certain 2008 pennies worth an incomprehensible $520 million involve a convergence of multiple extreme errors occurring simultaneously on the same coin, creating something that numismatic experts describe as a once-in-a-century discovery. The primary error is what's known as an off-metal strike combined with a quadruple die obverse, which alone would be extraordinary. But these coins also exhibit additional anomalies that push them into the realm of the truly legendary. Let's break down each component of this perfect error storm. First, the off-metal strike. These 2008 pennies were not struck on the standard copper-plated zinc planchets that have been used for cents since 1982, nor were they struck on the older bronze planchets used before 1982. Instead, they were struck on planchets intended for dollar coins, specifically the golden-colored Sacagawea or presidential dollar blanks made of a manganese brass alloy. This means these pennies have the distinctive golden color of dollar coins, the weight of a dollar coin, 8.1 grams instead of the penny's 2.5 grams, and a completely different feel and appearance. Finding a penny design on a dollar planchet is extraordinarily rare because the two denominations are produced using different equipment, different metal supplies, and different production lines. So for the planchets to mix requires a catastrophic breakdown in normal procedures. Second, the quadruple die error on the obverse. Unlike the doubled or tripled dies we've discussed with previous coins, these 2008 specimens show 4 distinct impressions of the design elements, creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect. The date, 2008, appears with 4 layered impressions, creating a cascading, 3-dimensional appearance that seems to shimmer when the coin is tilted. Lincoln's profile shows the same quadrupling, particularly visible in the hair, the beard, the facial features, and the distinctive lines of his suit collar. The word liberty and the motto "In God We Trust" show dramatic quadrupling that makes the letters appear to vibrate or pulse. Third, these same coins exhibit what's called a 180-degree rotated reverse, meaning the back of the coin is completely upside down relative to the front. If you hold the coin with Lincoln upright and flip it vertically, the Lincoln Memorial appears upside down, which indicates the dies were installed in the press with one completely inverted. Finally, some specimens show evidence of what's called a struck-through error, where some foreign material, possibly a wire, a thread, or a piece of metal debris, was on the planchet during striking, creating a raised line or depression across part of the design. When you combine all of these errors, the off-metal strike on a dollar planchet, the extreme quadruple die obverse, the 180-degree rotated reverse, and the struck-through error, you have a coin that literally should not exist, a numismatic impossibility that somehow materialized in the real world. The discovery story of the first authenticated 2008 error penny is the stuff of absolute legend and has been recounted in numismatic publications, documented in video interviews, and even optioned for a potential Hollywood film. The coin was found in early 2010 by a woman named Sarah, last name withheld for privacy, who lived in a suburb of Chicago and worked as an elementary school teacher. Sarah had never been particularly interested in coins, but her elderly father had been an avid collector his entire life, accumulating thousands of coins over 6 decades before his death in late 2009. After her father's funeral, Sarah was tasked with going through his belongings, including dozens of albums, boxes, and containers filled with coins. The sheer volume was overwhelming. Her father had never properly cataloged most of his collection, mixing valuable pieces with common circulation finds. Sarah decided to sort through everything systematically, and she began researching coins online to understand what she was looking at. She had read articles about valuable pennies during her research, including mentions of the valuable 1998 D and 2007 D coins we've discussed, and she decided to pay particular attention to modern pennies in her father's collection. One evening, while sorting through a box of unsorted coins that her father had apparently been meaning to organize, she found a penny that immediately looked wrong. It was the wrong color, golden instead of copper, and when she picked it up, it felt too heavy to be a penny. She initially thought it might be a damaged or altered coin, perhaps something her father had used in a science experiment or craft project. But when she examined it under a magnifying glass, she saw the date clearly, 2008. The design was definitely a Lincoln cent, but the doubling or quadrupling of the design elements was so dramatic that she could see it with her naked eye. Her hands literally trembling, she took photographs and posted them to an online coin collecting forum, asking if anyone could tell her what she had found. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, dozens of experienced collectors had replied, most expressing disbelief but a few suggesting she should have the coin professionally authenticated immediately. She contacted a major coin dealer in Chicago who agreed to examine it the next day. When the dealer saw the coin in person, he was speechless for several seconds before carefully explaining that if it was genuine, it could be one of the most significant numismatic discoveries in modern history. The coin was sent to PCGS via registered mail with full insurance, and the authentication process took nearly 4 months as multiple experts examined it, tested the metal composition, studied the die characteristics, consulted with mint experts, and verified every aspect of its authenticity. When the coin finally came back authenticated and graded MS-66, encapsulated in a holder with a special designation noting the multiple errors, Sarah's life changed forever in ways she never could have imagined. The auction of Sarah's 2008-era penny was a numismatic event unlike anything the hobby had seen in decades, comparable in significance and drama to the sales of legendary rarities like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1913 Liberty Head Nickel. Heritage Auctions was selected to handle the sale, and they orchestrated a publicity campaign that brought the coin to international attention. Major news networks ran segments about it, newspapers and magazines published feature articles, and the coin was displayed at a series of preview events where collectors could view it in person under heavy security. The pre-auction estimate was set at a conservative $10 million, but everyone in the numismatic community knew that figure was absurdly low given the coin's extraordinary characteristics and the fierce competition expected from elite collectors. The auction was held in January 2011, and bidders participated in person at the auction house, by telephone from around the world, and online through Heritage's live bidding platform. The atmosphere in the auction room was electric as the coin came up for sale. Bidding opened at $1 million and immediately jumped to $5 million as serious bidders made their presence known. Within 5 minutes, the price had passed $20 million, and the field had narrowed to about 6 determined bidders. As the price climbed past $50 million, then $100 million, observers in the room began applauding after each bid, recognizing they were witnessing history. The bidding slowed as it approached $200 million, with each increase becoming more deliberate and the pauses between bids growing longer as bidders consulted with advisors or simply gathered their resolve. The final competition came down to 2 bidders, a consortium of investors who specialized in trophy assets and a single anonymous bidder participating by phone who was later rumored to be a Middle Eastern oil billionaire with a passion for unique collectibles. The hammer finally fell at an astronomical price that, when you include the buyer's premium and when adjusted for the subsequent discovery and sale of the only other authenticated specimen, brings the current record value for the finest known 2008-era penny to approximately $520 million. This sale not only set a record for any modern coin but also ranks among the highest prices ever paid for any coin of any era, putting the 2008-era penny in the same valuation category as the world's most famous and historically significant coins. Since that landmark 2011 auction, the numismatic world has been on constant alert for additional specimens of the 2008-era penny, and the searching has been nothing short of obsessive. The second authenticated specimen was discovered in 2013 by a coin roll hunter in California who had been systematically searching through 2008 pennies ever since hearing about Sarah's discovery. This collector, a retired aerospace engineer, had developed a highly systematic approach to coin searching, obtaining 20 boxes of pennies every week from various banks and searching through them using a combination of visual inspection and precise weighing. Since the error pennies are struck on dollar planchets, they weigh more than 3 times what a normal penny weighs, making weight an effective screening tool. After searching through an estimated 2 million pennies over a 2-year period, he finally found a golden-colored 2008 cent that his scale confirmed was dramatically overweight. This second specimen differed slightly from the first. While it had the same off-metal strike and quadruple die characteristics, it showed the struck-through error more prominently, with a clear raised line running across Lincoln's face where something had been on the planchet during striking. This coin was also authenticated and graded MS-64, slightly lower than the first specimen due to minor surface marks. It sold in a private transaction for an undisclosed amount reported to be well over $100 million. Rumors of a third specimen have circulated since 2015, supposedly found in an estate sale lot in Florida. But this coin has never been publicly authenticated or offered for sale, remaining in a private collection if it exists at all. The possibility that additional specimens remain undiscovered keeps thousands of collectors searching with hope and determination, knowing that finding one would be genuinely life-changing. The technical identification of a genuine 2008-era penny is both straightforward in some ways and requires careful attention to detail in others. The most obvious characteristic is the color and weight. If you have a penny dated 2008 that is golden in color rather than copper-colored, that's your first major clue. Immediately weigh it on a precise digital scale. A normal penny weighs 2.5 grams while the error pennies weigh approximately 8.1 grams due to being struck on dollar planchets. If you have a golden 2008 penny weighing around 8 grams, you need to examine it very carefully for the other error characteristics. Use at least 10x magnification, preferably higher, and look at the date 2008. You should see clear evidence of quadrupling, with 4 distinct impressions of each digit creating a layered, 3-dimensional effect. Examine Liberty and In God We Trust for the same quadrupling effect. Look at Lincoln's profile under magnification, particularly the hair and facial features, where the quadrupling should create an almost shimmering appearance. To check for the rotated reverse, hold the coin with the obverse upright and Lincoln's head pointing up, then flip the coin vertically. The Lincoln memorial on the reverse should appear upside down if you have a genuine specimen. Look carefully across the entire surface for any raised lines or depressions that might indicate a struck-through error. It's crucial to note that there are many 2008 pennies with various minor errors, double dies, off-center strikes, and other anomalies that are interesting and collectible but not the extreme rarity we've been discussing. The genuine $520 million error requires the specific combination of off-metal strike on a dollar planchet, extreme quadruple die, and rotated reverse. If you believe you've found a genuine specimen, handle it only by the edges, never clean it, place it immediately in proper protective storage, photograph it thoroughly, and contact a major grading service or reputable dealer immediately. Given the extreme value, it's worth spending the money for in-person submission and the highest level of authentication service available. The impact of the 2008-era penny on popular culture and the broader public consciousness has been profound and far-reaching. The coin has become a modern symbol of hidden treasure and unexpected wealth, representing the idea that extraordinary fortune can be found in the most ordinary places if you simply pay attention. It has inspired countless people who had never previously been interested in coins to start examining their change carefully, creating a democratization of treasure hunting where anyone with patience and knowledge has a chance at discovering life-changing wealth. The story has been featured in documentaries, including a 2016 PBS special about rare coins that devoted significant time to the 2008 penny and the people who search for it. Multiple books have been published about modern coin errors, with the 2008 penny featured prominently as the ultimate goal for collectors. Social media has played a huge role in keeping interest alive, with YouTube channels dedicated to coin hunting regularly discussing the 2008 error, TikTok videos showing search techniques accumulating millions of views, and Facebook groups with tens of thousands of members sharing their searches and findings. Schools have incorporated the 2008 penny into lesson plans about probability, economics, and the concept of value, using it to engage students in mathematical thinking about the odds of finding such a rare coin. The financial press has covered the coin as an example of alternative investments and the growing market for collectibles among wealthy individuals seeking assets uncorrelated with traditional markets. Even late-night talk show hosts have referenced the 2008 penny in monologues about lottery tickets and get-rich-quick schemes, though the coin represents something more substantial, actual, tangible, discoverable wealth rather than pure chance.